Thanks for listening to this episode of Spooky Mountain. I'm Steph.
And I'm Jordi, and thank you so much for joining us once again this week. How you going, Steph?
Good. Yeah,
Yay,
I'm really good.
yay.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good, and
Yeah?
I'm so gosh darn
Gosh dunk it.
excited to tell you my story this week. I've been like
Oh,
so
really?
G'd up every day. I'm like, I just want to
Ooh.
record because I'm just so excited to tell you my story.
Oh, cool.
Yes, yes.
Ooh.
It's different.
Oh, awesome.
It's different in a way that it's not like a different kind of story, but there's a bit of background to this. So
I like it.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's
interesting.
very much in your realm of interest as well.
I'm loving it. I have no fucking idea what you're talking
No, you
about,
don't.
and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's good. I like mine.
That's good. That's always good.
You're really. Yeah, I've got mine's about just a really weird location.
Ooh.
Kind of like a really weird spot that's known for. I literally will be talking about like every single encounter today. There's so much going on. Yeah.
Oh, so this is like with my story. I did like a whole bunch of kind of like broad research about this thing, but it kind of took me to like other places. But the thing that like through my research this week, I just heard over and over again that like if you experience kind of like one form of paranormal, there's a kind of like sometimes you experience all of it. Like there's some locations or there's some, people in the world where they attract like UFOs or like sightings of UFOs or whatever. But then they also tend to experience a lot of like ghost things.
I'd love to have that.
Yeah.
I just have seen. Actually, I don't know. I say that, but
would you really?
Scary. Yeah, I know. Going back to seeing an alien, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, no.
So.
I since we spoke about this last, I've thought about it a bit, and I think that seeing an alien would definitely be probably like top of my list.
Yeah.
Worst things that I would want to see, or like most terrifying
when you think
things.
about it, it is actually. It's so scary to think about.
Yes.
Like
it's terrifying.
And you know what? I've been wanting to read The Communion. Have you heard of that?
No, what's
book
that?
By Whitley Strieber. It's like a really well-known alien abduction book. Just called The Communion. And it's been around for ages. It's like apparently it's a story about Whitley Strieber, and he talks about the encounters he's had, and it's so graphic and intense, and it just really brought to light alien abductions. But the cover of this book is so fucking scary. It's literally of a grey alien, and it's just terrifying, and I can't get myself to read it. And so I've been trying for months to find an audiobook or a podcast where they read about it, because I want Dylan to listen to it with me, because I'm too scared to read it, because everyone's like traumatized by this book.
Would you
find
you would find that less scary to hear it as opposed to reading it?
Well, the only reason is because I'd be doing it on my own. So it would just be me in my head reading it. But Dylan's like, oh, it sounds really interesting.
So he could listen
to
it as well.
So if I found an audiobook and we both listen to it, he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, but it doesn't exist. So maybe I should.
Oh, you should do it. You have a very good reading voice.
Make some quiche on the side.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love stuff like that. I love true, or of course I love true alien shit, because we're doing a paranormal podcast and this is what we do, but
oh, what?
Are we really? I remember like a few years ago, there was talk of like, I never actually ended up really following it, but there was talk of like, at the time, I think it was like Obama releasing all the like disclosure information.
Right.
And it was like this huge thing that all kind of like UFO and alien junkies were like, disclosure's going to be released, like all the files and everything.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to be like.
It got released.
Okay. But did it really?
In July. Yeah, well, they've pretty much just, it's the most frustrating articles I think I've ever read in my life. I didn't go through the whole thing, but pretty much they are saying what we'd expect. Like, yeah, look, some of them were unidentified objects. We don't know what they were. But anyway, the ones that we did know were, you know, probably this.
Oh, that is so frustrating.
And it's just like really stupid.
That's frustrating because the term UFO, it's like, you hear the word UFO and you're just like, oh, aliens. But UFO is like unidentified flying objects. It could literally be anything.
Anything. So we just don't know what it is.
We just don't know what it is. So they're not saying anything about, aliens exist.
Yeah, they never talk about the term alien or anything like that, which, I mean, we expect that, really.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been... imagine if they just came out with all of it, though. I honestly don't think it will ever be a thing because... I do believe that if they have received information that we've been visited or we actually have had contact, they could probably learn, or they probably have learnt so much from like reverse engineering,
absolutely,
crafts and stuff, and they would never jeopardize that.
I agree
because of
there's no way they're going to tell that. They're just leaking tiny little bits here and there just to make us keep, stay interested.
Yep.
But, yeah, I completely agree. They're otherwise already here or they know that they're doing whatever they are. I love the theory, and I probably will do an episode on this, is the whole theory that they're actually from under the ocean. The aliens aren't from a different universe or planet. They're actually from inside the ocean because we have not even explored so much of our ocean, and a lot of people have actually seen the ships come out of the water. So I think that's a really cool other topic.
The idea of, aliens being like under the water as opposed to from outer space is just a whole nother level of fun and interesting. So cool.
And thinking about it heaps lately.
Yeah, it's such an amazing idea, and it makes sense. Like, there is so much of the ocean that we haven't explored, and it is also because it is so difficult for us to. It's not because we're lazy; it's because it's so difficult.
We actually can't.
It's almost impossible. So if there were aliens down there, they would know that it's hard for us to.
It's like underwater caves and all these crazy
and all the
things down there.
All the creatures down there, like all the sea life down there, and they're almost like aliens themselves, or the creatures that exist in like the deep ocean.
Weird things down there. They just saw. I saw a article where a few days ago they just found a fossil of a whale with 4 legs. And it was like just at the period where whales were, pretty much deciding if animals are going to decide if they're in the water for good or on the land. And
That's
this
incredible.
was like a full whale, and it
has legs.
It ate like a velociraptor. Like it had like little arms at the front, and like
it's Jurassic Park.
It's terrifying. I saw a photo of it. It's actually really scary.
That's so funny when you.
I can't. It's actually so weird.
The image that came into my head when you said a whale with legs, for some reason I imagined it with like human legs, not like.
Oh no.
I know that's not what you're talking about, but that's what came into my head
of it because it's actually really creepy.
Of course, it sounds terrifying.
What I had in my head isn't. Yeah, it's really strange. But yeah, the ocean's terrifying.
It is. Yes.
Also, if I post that on Instagram, you should be following our Instagram and our Facebook because we post a lot of stuff on there. That's pretty much our main social medias at the moment, Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. And we have a link tree as well, which pretty much just connects you to any podcasting platform that you want to listen to.
Yeah, and the other day I made a Twitter, but I also made a TikTok because I was like, surely we can do something on TikTok.
Yeah,
I don't know. So they're like Twitter and TikTok.
Cool.
They're very dormant. There's nothing. I don't know when there's going to be stuff on there, but I know the kids are into Twitter. So
everyone's getting famous on TikTok.
Maybe we can.
Something really cool. We have our very first follower on Twitch. Their name is Nancy Vandal. I don't know if they're a
Ooh.
listener. If you are,
Nancy,
awesome. Thank you.
Nancy.
Number one.
We love you,
Yeah,
Nancy.
I went to go check the Twitch account. I was like, oh my God, we have a follower. Even though we've done nothing on there, I love it.
I've been thinking about our Twitch a lot lately, and we should really, like, especially now that it's lockdown, this is like the time to be gaming. So
I agree.
we should figure out, and for anyone listening, if you have some, maybe we should kind of put this question onto Instagram or something. But if you, because we do know, like Steph and I, we are aware of some pretty spooky games. But if there's a game that you think you would enjoy watching us play, then let us know.
Might do a questions, get some
cool,
get some potential
feedback.
Games downloaded. That would be fun.
Yeah, I would love to do that. That's just like a whole level of, because it's not really like it is a little bit related to our podcast because we're the hosts and we're gaming together and we're kind of doing spooky gaming, but it's kind of like other than the podcast. It's really fun.
It still fits in somewhere.
It still
I'm
fits.
Sure.
So something kind of, I don't know. Okay. It could be spooky. It could just be like a technical difficulty, but something kind of weird happened to me a couple of days ago.
Okay.
So my daughter, Panda, has been waking up really early lately, like 5:30 in the morning early. And the other morning she woke up really early and I was just laying there just fucking hating life and like avoiding getting out of bed. And I heard like a full-on conversation in my house. And I was like, is there someone in my house? And at this time, like my partner's left for work. So it's just like me and the baby. So I'm like, what do I do if there's someone in the house? Like, do I check it out?
A man and a woman talking? Like
it sounded like women talking. I was like, what the fuck is that? I got up and my computer that I'm on now was turned on in this room that I record in. It was turned on and our podcast was playing.
What?
And I have no idea how.
What episode? What the fuck?
I know. It's never happened before. This has never happened before. My computer has never turned on by itself. It's never ran.
And your partner didn't turn it on. I mean,
no,
I don't know why.
Absolutely not.
He would do that.
That didn't accidentally turn it on.
Shit.
He never even touches. Nobody touches this computer, and it was so spooky because it was just like voices, and it was us talking. That was the conversation that I could hear.
I didn't even think of that. I was like, who were these women though?
These fucking women in my house. Yeah, it's us. But
oh my god.
Yeah, and you know,
the goat.
Oh, don't even, Steph. Don't bring up that goat. The goat doesn't exist.
That's so scary.
I told my mum, and so she's been like listening to our podcast, and she was like, maybe it's so my nan passed away end of last year, and we were really close, and she was an amazing woman and always so encouraging of everyone. And my mum was like, maybe it was Nan who turned it on because she wanted to
have a listen.
She wanted to listen to your podcast. And I was like, maybe that's what it was. Yeah. Or maybe it was the goat.
Nice.
Maybe it was the evil goat.
I mean, look,
but,
grandma goat.
Who knows? But now I like to think that it was her that turned it on.
I would be choosing to think that too.
But, you know, I actually, since she passed away, like her house, she had a very, very, very distinct smell in her house. And I remember when she passed away, of course I was sad that she was gone. I was like thinking about how much I was going to miss her. But something that really affected me was thinking about not being able to like just go to her house and smell that smell anymore. I have been smelling this smell all around my house, like maybe every 2 or 3 days. Like it's like this
really that often?
Yes, yeah, like super often, and it's always around the same area of my house. And it's such a distinct smell. Like you could not, you can't like mistake it for anything else.
Gotta be her. That's crazy.
I know.
I've heard that so many times where it's that smell. You don't smell it any other time.
No, nowhere else.
That's
like
so cool.
Outside of the house, I don't really like smell it, and like because it also was like one of the things that I was so devastated about because that smell was like such a like home. Like we would go to her house for holidays and You walk into a house and you smell that smell, and it's like, and she lived like right on the beach as well, so it's kind of like on the beach, get to see Nan, you know. So I kind of feel like if the paranormal does exist and ghosts exist,
that's really interesting.
They can kind of comfort you with smells.
You should, next time you smell that smell, maybe just take into account what's happening at the moment as well. Like maybe it might be popping in during certain times when you're doing something, or maybe even just thinking something weird. Well, it might be good to kind of take note of that.
I have kind of thought about this. I've thought it because like where I smell it, whenever I smell this smell, it's always usually around. So we have for Panda like a play area, and it's kind of like just this sectioned off like baby gate thing, and it's always like right by kind of the entry of the gate into her play area. And it's like, is she like watching Panda? Because she only got to meet Panda like once before she passed away. And like she passed away very, very suddenly. It wasn't expected at all. Like she wasn't sick. It was like very, very fast. And so we kind of like rushed up for her to meet Panda before, because we knew that she didn't have.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were told like she only had 24 hours after she was like initially like diagnosed suddenly with this thing. So we rushed up for like Panda to meet her, and so I'm like, is she kind of just like standing there watching Panda like play? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
wild ideas, but it's nice to think about,
I think so too. That is a really nice, bit of comfort that you've got in the house.
Yeah, I like that once someone has passed on, you can, even if some of it is like potentially embellished in your mind, it can bring you comfort. Like after such a like devastating loss, I think it's such a nice thing to be able to like connect to,
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, just another side of the paranormal.
That's cool. Yeah, I haven't had really anything creepy happen to me, or anything. It's weird. I feel quite okay in this house, and and it's hard being in lockdown as well, because you can't leave your area. So I'm just like in my yard.
Yeah,
I mean, it is pretty interesting because we're in a rental house, and there was a couple that were previously living here, like an elderly couple. We're assuming, hearing from the neighbours, we've been talking to the neighbours a little bit when we're in the front yard, and they always ask like, where's the lady? Did she pass away? And we're like, no, we're renting from her. And they're like, oh, yeah, before her husband died, he kept the yard really nice, and he kept the house immaculate, and you could tell that once he passed away that the house kind of
went a bit down.
She got quite old and couldn't keep up with the house, so we're assuming she just went to a retirement home.
Yep. But
it's funny because the neighbours always mention when me and Dylan are in the yard, they're like, oh, it's good to see you in the yard. It's good,
You're like keeping his spirit alive by doing the gardening.
I love it. And his shed, so there's this massive garage at the back that is just filled with old tools, massive planks of wood. There's this really old big gas lamp. It's incredible.
Oh, wow.
These really old things from like the 50s and the 60s.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, like the past 2 days I've just been going through the shed because I've been like doing lots of upcycling. I've got this old mirror and I'm stripping it back, and I'm like, you can see these tins of paint if there's any like wood lacquer, and there's like the oldest stuff going on in there, and it's just really cool.
And that's probably all his stuff, and instead of it just like rotting away, you're kind of
we're using all of it. There's these little things you can see where he's like put things in certain spots, and
good on you for still doing that. I think I said this last episode or episode before that, your gardening is just so lovely. I love seeing all the stuff that you're doing. It's such a like happy, positive, fun thing to be doing.
I know. It's so nice. It's actually the funnest thing ever.
Yeah, we should definitely post some of your stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, that'd be good. I might take some.
I know it's kind of like nice different to the normal
creepy
I know,
stuff. If anyone likes gardening,
maybe
there's so much going on.
We should start a gardening podcast.
Oh my god, it's literally me just picking weeds like majority of the time and screaming at caterpillars eating leaves and stuff. Like,
so my regular job that I don't work in anymore, that I used to do it was bush regeneration, and I worked in bush regen for years and years. And the main job that we do in bush regen is literally just weeding. It's just weeding all fucking day. And so like this like decomposing weeds has such a distinct smell that even just thinking about, because what we used to do is like pick all these weeds and then put them into a pile, cover the pile, and it turns to compost. But the smell is something that will stick with me forever. It's horrible. It's like,
can you put weeds in compost? I didn't even think of that because I was like,
all
I'm
your
scared
weeds in
the
the
bulbs.
No, the bulbs you got to be
Onion
careful.
weeds.
Yeah, onion weed. You don't want onion weed in your fucking compost.
I swear once a day I want to set the yard on fire.
Yeah,
because
they're a lot.
have that many onion weeds.
They're
I didn't even know
impossible.
they existed until I moved here. And I was like, what is this really insane
my
grass?
God.
Like, if anyone doesn't know what it is, it literally just looks like a blade of grass.
Yep.
But it is so, like, it starts off really thin, but the root goes so far down in the ground, and then it's literally just like a little miniature onion bulb, and you can't just pull it out. You have to dig the whole
down.
ground.
Oh god! And it's like,
and there's like a cluster of them.
yes, they're like either
God.
they're like they were the bane of my existence doing regen, but also the most satisfying shit ever. You get your trowel and you kind of pop them out and you get all the bulbs out and they smell delicious, but they're
do,
terrible.
and you can eat them as well.
You can eat them, it's just like little.
So they're all in my veggie garden, like everywhere.
They're hard
because now it's spring, it's popping up, and
and all you can do is kind of anyway. We are not a gardening podcast.
We're not,
but maybe we should do, considering we know so much about gardening. But so actually, just one more really really fast thing. Because I don't want to, carry on too long. When you were talking about your shed, you just reminded me of a memory from my childhood. I was living in the Blue Mountains, a different town of the Blue Mountains, and me and my best friend who lived just around the corner and her brother, we discovered this empty lot. So it was like a lot with no house on it, but it looked like there was a house. There used to be a house on there because there was an empty swimming pool, and all else that was on this lot was like this little like wooden shed. It wasn't very big, it was wooden and it was locked, but because we were kids and we were pretty, we just would walk around the streets, discovering shit, we kind of like broke into it through one of the old paneled like pieces of wood. We broke into it and the whole shed was filled with stuff from a child that had passed away. So, and we know this child passed away because we found, I don't think they do this anymore, but I guess back in the day at funerals, they would have almost like a guest book. And this guest book was filled with...
they do.
Oh, they do still do that. I've never seen that before. This little guest book was filled with like condolences of this child. And there was another book that was kind of like little like poems and stuff that I think maybe one of the parents had written out, and there was this, it was so creepy. This
my God.
little like book with the poems in it. One of the poems, it was written about the child that had passed away, and the poem was about how the child had sucked on paint, like a paintbrush with paint on it. And the child passed away from...
No way. That was in the book?
Yes. Yep. And it was filled with like old
How
stuff.
old was the kid?
I don't know. I'm not sure if... I want to say like 5, like 4 or 5, but that could just be my memory, like not remembering correctly. But
so the house... So it was just the shed that was abandoned or like locked up?
It was like an empty lot, like a whole just empty property, with an empty swimming pool, no water in the swimming pool, fully neglected. And the only other thing on the lot was this little wooden shed. And it would have been like 2 by 2.
Weird.
Like 2 by 2.
Wow.
Like not big at
tiny.
all. And it was just jam-packed full of old stuff. And along with, like...
Did it look like it was just forgotten?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's so strange. Oh, I want to... Do you know where it is?
I know. I remember where it is, but I think there's a house built on there now. I'm sure the lot was like sold to someone to,
to
build a house.
I would not buy that property. That's too creepy.
Oh, God. And we didn't we didn't steal those little guest, signature books, but we pinched a couple of other things.
Yeah.
Like a couple of other
Yeah, as a kid, I've
yeah.
done that, and I look back going, what is wrong with
I
me?
know. Oh, God.
was
Thinking
so
about
bad.
some of the shit that I did as a kid. God damn it.
So bad. Down the road from our house that we grew up in the mountains, I remember it just makes no sense that this stuff doesn't click in your head, but this family were moving out of their huge house and they had just stuff in the shed that they locked up, and they were coming back every week and that kind of take stuff out of the shed to their new house. But we knew during the week they weren't there, and me and my sisters literally were just curious that there was a big empty house, and we couldn't get into the house, and we're like, I just want to have a look,
Yeah.
And then we went into the shed because the shed was open,
Right.
and there was just like a few random boxes left over.
Yep.
And there was like a box of like old, cool, like 80s earrings. Then there was a doll. Now, I only had this till a few years ago, and I don't even know where the fuck it is, but it was a Where the Wild Things Are doll.
Oh, wow.
But it was like really old.
Yeah, right. Oh,
And
creepy.
There was a few other weird things, but we kind of took one thing each, and I took that. And we just went home and we're like, cool, they probably didn't want it. And I remember just thinking that, like, they probably just didn't want this
it's in a
stuff because there
box.
wasn't much left in there.
Oh, no, that was probably like, no, actually, no, don't worry. I'm not going to.
It's so bad to think about. But I remember at the same time, I'm not going to tell my mum. Well, now my mum's listened to this.
So now she knows. Same as my mum talking about
I shouldn't
the shed.
tell mum that we went there because it's not good that we went in there.
Yeah. So, like,
And I'm
something
gonna
in your head knew that it was, like, bad to do.
It's so bad. I must have been like 11 or something.
Oh, God. I think
gross.
about shit that I did like that as a kid, and I still have guilt, like, inside
Just
guilt
thinking of-
about shit like that. Anyway, we should continue to our stories. We've been flapping our gums for a while. So
Oh, God.
let's
Yeah, Jesus. All right. We're well into it. So, okay, my story, I'm going to be talking about a pretty strange place. It's called the Bridgewater Triangle.
I've
No,
never
okay.
heard of this one.
Very nice. So, it is a location that spans around 200 square miles in southeastern Massachusetts, United States, and is claimed to be a hotspot of alleged paranormal phenomena, including UFOs, poltergeists, balls of fire, satanic rituals, ghosts, Bigfoot, and heaps of other cool cryptids.
Balls of fire?
Literally everything. Yeah, balls of fire.
Okay, cool.
So when I say the word Bridgewater Triangle, does that sound familiar to you in any way, or
No,
sound like
just
anything you've heard
triangle.
of?
Triangle is used in terms of like, it's the Bermuda Triangle, it's the triangle of this. So
that's right. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what it's named. Well, play on
Related,
of the Bermuda Triangle, because it's a strange place. So. The locals and everyone that travelled in this area, they're very familiar with the super creepy vibe that it gives off and just the high level of unexplained occurrences. So the triangle was drawn up and named in the 1970s by cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman, who at the time was investigating strange things happening around the Hockomock Swamp, which is located inside the triangle. This was all published in his book, Mysterious America. That's how he got really famous off this book. So after Coleman published his findings, the Massachusetts region went berserk with all types of people like paranormal researchers, investigators, and thrill seekers. A folklorist named Christopher Balzano, hopefully I'm saying that right, he's written multiple books about the triangle. He states, quote, "The land has something to it that's just spoiled. That's just not right. It's not just the trees, it's not just the grass, and it's not just the creatures that live there. The land seems alive."
Oh, that's something about that really like touches on a weird feeling. Like it's just spoiled.
It's unsettling.
Like something is not right about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what and where is the triangle? So the 3 points make up the towns as follows. Rehoboth, Freetown, and Abington. And Bridgewater is right in the middle of those three. So the triangle makes up lots of geographical areas, including big towns, small towns, large swamps, lakes, and huge forests as well. So pretty much all these places have experienced something. So what I'll do, I'll start off with the Hockomock Swamp. So it's a super large wetland that's just under 17,000 acres large. And during the 17th century, this swamp was used as a fortress by the Wampanoag, who were the Native Americans in the area. The swamp was used as protection against the English invaders at the time.
Right. So it's like inherently kind of violent. It would be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Yep. So the Wampanoag people placed this area as very high value to them, as it was used for their hunting, but also played a dual role in being sacred burial ground. So the name Hockomock is a term that means place where spirits dwell. The Hockomock was occasionally referred to as Hobbamock, which was the chief deity of death and disease. He was composed of human souls of the dead and known to congregate in the swamp.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
Yeah. So this area is super mysterious.
Yeah.
Very sacred to the natives.
Okay.
And also seen as that today from everyone who visits it. Now, also inside the triangle, there's a strange rock called the Dighton Rock, which is a large slate stone with petroglyphs on it of people, animals, and weird symbols all over it. So it was first documented in 1680 and had the symbols written down, which is very lucky, as today you can't see them anymore just due to erosion. It was in this area along this big river, and it just kept getting eroded, so they eventually just took it up, popped it in a museum, so now it's safe. But yeah, you can't see anything that's on it. No one's been able to confirm what the petroglyphs actually mean. There's over 36 theories out there, many of them describing alien origins, of course, Vikings, but the most likely being it was from the local native people at the time that probably wrote on the rock. Now, also there is the Freetown Fall River State Forest. Now, this is a really large area inside the triangle, and it's reported as being a site of various cult activities, including animal sacrifice, ritualistic murders, a number of gangland murders, and a number of suicides as well. So, obviously, just from that, like, the forest sounds terrifying.
Yeah, yeah.
And dark.
Oh, just thinking about that stuff in, like, relating to a forest is not good.
It's not good. Yeah, it sounds super dark and creepy. Yeah, in 1978, 15-year-old Mary Lou Aruda was found tied to a tree in the forest. Then in 1980, while the cops were investigating another murder, they approached a group of people who claimed to have just witnessed a satanic cult ritual in the forest. Then the murders, they just kept happening. Then there was hazardous waste that just kept getting dumped there, and still there are reports of aggressive abandoned dogs and even an escaped emu.
An emu? How the fuck did an emu get there?
Roaming the forest.
Maybe it was the emu doing all the satanic
emu.
It would be typical of, emus.
Typical sighting. Just another day in the forest. And so now for the next place, this is called the Taunton State Hospital. This building is so beautiful. I mean, to me, it is, I think, because I'm in Australia, but I think a lot of buildings on the east coast of America, just those really old, big red buildings. It's incredible. And I'm definitely going to post on the Instagram because I love it. It has been demolished, but it was originally the State Lunatic Hospital at Taunton. It was located on a huge farm. The building became abandoned in 1975. And it's since been used for many satanic rituals, and lots of paranormal investigators to explore the really long halls and many ghostly apparitions that are seen all over the property.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're going to delve a little bit deeper into what people are actually seeing in the Bridgewater Triangle. The Hockomock Swamp is pretty much the main hotspot of the area, probably because, yeah, it's in the center. It's absolutely massive. And people have reported seeing thunderbirds, pterodactyls. Yes, that's right.
Wow.
The dinosaur. Yeah.
Of course.
But that's not all. There's also a really high amount of ghostly figures, disembodied voices, heaps of Bigfoot sightings as well, like a really large amount of Bigfoot sightings. Majority of the Bigfoot sightings haven't been very aggressive. However, there was one encounter in 1970 where one went, quote, haywire, killing pigs and sheep belonging to local farmers. Police with attack dogs searched the swamp for 2 days, but no sign of the Bigfoot creature. They never found anything.
Wow.
At the other end of the forest, the Assinet Ledge is a remote location that has reportedly been the site to ghosts standing on top of this ledge and leaping before disappearing. In a recent presentation from John Brightman from the New England Paranormal Research Group, he reported that he broke down on top of the ledge as a spirit had told him to jump or leave.
Oh, my God. That's so violent.
So dark, eh? Ugh. Now, on Copicut Road in the Triangle, travellers have reported a truck driver following them too closely and honking his horn and making wild motions with his arms. Then the truck just vanishes. So, ghost truck. And on Route 44 in Seekonk, I think it's called Seekonk, many motorists have reported seeing a red-headed hitchhiker. The man with long red hair and a full beard is seen walking along the roadside. When people pull over to pick him up, he vanishes. Some even get so far as to get him in the car and they start driving and then he vanishes once he's already in.
Wow.
Gross. In 2018, 43-year-old Kirsten O'Dea was dropping her daughter off at school around 8 a.m. when she saw a huge bird with a raptor-like tail flying around the school. Quote, the thing was flying in circles, but it was huge. I've never seen a bird that big in my life. I know I'm not the only one who saw it because the other parents were hitting their brakes.
Oh, my God. Imagine seeing that. Also, flying above the school. A pterodactyl. That's terrifying.
Yeah, that is, yes, above the school.
Like,
searching for lunch.
I have never, like, included dinosaurs into, like, the paranormal, like, realm of existence before.
I know. It's so weird. So despite O'Dea's saying she felt pretty crazy for having experienced such a thing, massive birds are one of the more common sightings in Bridgewater Triangle. Like Norton Police Sergeant Thomas Downey, he was driving to his home in Easton after his shift on a late summer's night in 1971. He noticed a giant bird in the area, ironically known as Bird Hill, just at the edge of Hockomock Swamp. He claimed the creature saw him and then shot straight up into the sky. But just before Downey observed it stood over 6 feet tall with a wingspan of 8 to 12 feet.
Wow, that's substantial.
So many think Sergeant Downey saw something similar to the legendary Mothman of Point Pleasant. But Native Americans in Massachusetts have long had a legend of the Thunderbird, a man-sized bird believed to possess supernatural abilities. Natural abilities. So now imagine. Okay, everyone just imagine this. You're walking through the forest and a crazy little gremlin gnome runs out in front of you and tries to punch on with you.
Punch on with you.
That's what a puckwudgie is. These little things are so aggressive and crazy, and I hate them. I actually just hate them. They are literally chihuahuas crossed with an angry magical gnome.
That's what it sounds like, a little angry chihuahua.
That's it. They're psychos. All they do is try to fuck with you by playing little tricks. They try to hurt you, and then they just vanish out of nowhere.
Oh, they can vanish
people
as well.
See them,
okay.
Yeah. So they'll just play nasty tricks on you and try to hurt you and just be annoying, and then they just disappear.
Yeah.
You're just like, what the
They just sort of fuck with you.
They're literally like 3 feet tall.
They remind me of like drunk little leprechauns or something.
Yeah, exactly. They're just crazy. So they're part of the Wampanoag folklore, and according to them, Pukwudgies were allied with humans until we, predictably, made them mad and they turned against us. So now there's also many UFO sightings. The most famous one coming from 2 WHDH newsmen in 1979. They were driving on an off-ramp on Route 106 and they spotted a baseball diamond-shaped UFO right above their heads. That's, most famous one. They're still alive now. They're talking about it all the time. There's lots of other UFO sightings, but you know what? For the first time in my life, I don't find them that interesting. The Pukwudgies and stuff, the birds,
Compared to the other shit.
Yeah. It's way more interesting to me. So, obviously this is just an insane amount of stuff happening in a pretty small area. But why is it happening? A lot of people turn to the time of King Philip's War in 1670. This was a conflict between the English settlers and Native Americans. The war was considered the bloodiest war per capita in US history. So people think that this war sparked the paranormal events. Balzano and Weisberg, who are the hosts of radio program Spooky South Coast, are experts when it comes to the Bridgewater Triangle. They say that one traumatic event like this couldn't be responsible for the amount of occurrences. They state that the paranormal phenomena is likely caused by the power and energy of the area. Now, while I do agree with them, an event like that would have had absolutely devastating results on the land and the people. But I do agree that, it's just one event can't, I feel like it would have in some way put in the paranormal, maybe the ghostly figures in that area, maybe. But then when you talk about flying birds and UFOs,
it's kind of like on a different level of...
It's just too many things happening.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. The only thing that people can really narrow it down to.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think?
I kind of feel like it could... Like, there's so many different levels of possibility. Like, if this all does exist, like, there's so many different levels of possibility. Like, maybe, like, I do feel like such violent events would damage an area in a certain sense. Like, I feel like nature has energy, humans have energy. Like, I feel like, obviously the land itself becomes damaged when something... It's almost like violent events almost like rip open a hole to other stuff.
It was already
happening.
A place that the native people really kind of wanted to protect from the beginning because it was already
so special to them.
Very sensitive.
Yeah.
So.
This is another thing also is I'm not saying this in a patronizing way to your story at all, but it's funny how a lot of stories it has the background of like a Native American burial ground or like a native, but like I'm not saying it's just an excuse for a story, but it could be that
it's all they.
It could be that because a culture I don't know. I'm not part of the Native American culture, so I don't want to speak too much about it because I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Not my place to say, but I feel like they do revere animals and land and spirits so strongly when you do have something like a burial ground or violent events happening or whatever, like that kind of severe disrespect.
Absolutely.
Like it's going to have an impact. And maybe you've got like UFOs and stuff. Maybe aliens are drawn to areas that are more energetically charged in that way. I don't know, like maybe
it's so strange.
It's strange. I do feel like I've always felt like all this kind of stuff is somehow intertwined, you know, like we spoke about this a little bit, like, you know, last week, but you know, like aliens and like ghosts and spirits somehow.
It can't just be like one thing.
No.
That's the thing. It's weird. It's like, okay, so there's not really anything people can pick up on. Like, there's so many other locations as well that, like, I didn't even mention. There's just like really strange, like Dighton Rock with the petroglyphs is the most famous rock, but there's like 3 other types of rocks with like weird inscriptions and cryptic things, rocks that look like people, like so many strange things around this place.
But that's the thing, and not to kind of put something like inscriptions onto a pedestal, but like, what do they say? Like, I'm sure there's plenty of inscriptions that aren't, you know, too superiorly, like, aren't super important, but it's like, you don't know what they say. It could be another kind of explanation as to what this area was for that Native American tribe as well. Like,
very true.
But it's very interesting with the Bigfoot there as well. Like, what is that? That's
heaps in the swamp. A really large amount in the swamp.
Swamp is very
sounds
interesting.
Incredible. I looked up, so I pretty much looked up all these places on Google Maps when I was researching it all. And if you look up Hockomock Swamp, I mean, great Google reviews. Everyone's like 5 stars, really
5
spooky,
stars on Yelp.
really scary place. People still go hunting there, so it's still, I think, a place where you can go hunting and like fishing. But people literally go there to do that, or they literally just go there to
or like
investigate.
Yeah. Even
so it's really
like
one or the other.
a place that is like pretty heavily hunted upon, I feel like. I don't know. I don't want to get too extreme with ideas, but like even just, if you've got like pretty heavy hunting on an area, that's a lot of death, you know.
Yeah, I think they were trying to protect it, like for ages. I think parts of it have been, and then they've opened up some other parts, but it's
so bizarre, isn't it?
It's weird.
And there's always been a relation to water and the paranormal as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm sure there's water in the swamp. Like
there's lots of lakes, and the swamp is absolutely massive. And then even through the state forest as well, there's just heaps of rivers and stuff. So
it'd be interesting to know, because there's always been theories of like ley lines and stuff as well going through countries. I wonder, like,
that's an interesting point.
Like I have never invested too heavily in the idea of like ley lines, just because I don't know too much about it, but like it would be, you know, interesting to know if it laid on ley lines.
I mean, I feel like it's in a really interesting spot just because it's near like south of Boston, which is pretty much, I think, it looks like probably like a 45-minute drive of where the Mayflower set in America. So
interesting.
That's why I would assume like this whole area on the East Coast, like it's the oldest part of America. So you can imagine how violent and intense this whole area would have been for so long.
This is the thing. If anything else, the like the fucking extreme violence that's probably happened on the land, and not just violence, but probably like rape and, you know,
everything,
all sorts of horrible shit, you know, it's probably happened there. And kind of what I was trying to explain before is like when that violence happens to something like a Native American tribe that, you know, are quite spiritual in their own way, I'm sure that has an effect on an area. You know, oh, that is so. I've never heard of this location. That's really.
There's a documentary on YouTube as well.
I'll watch it.
There's a lot of. It's really interesting. There's so much stuff you could talk about this place, but
that's crazy. I've like watched so many like documentaries and ghost hunting shit. I've never heard of it.
It's a really cool place.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, it would be awesome to go around there.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to go there. I've been to America, and I wish I knew about it before I went. That would be so. Although, you know, like I'm pretty tough when it comes to like ghost hunting and stuff, but I feel like I'd probably be a bit nervous
Yeah.
going there.
I always will choose to go ghost hunting, but I'm so scared. I'm really pathetic. I've only recently been into like Bigfoot and stuff the past like 3 years probably. And because of the whole COVID thing, I haven't really had a chance to investigate it. But I think that would scare me more than ghosts now. Like actually seeking Bigfoot for me, that's someone that I think I believe in them.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I do. And I'm so scared of that.
Well, I'm very glad that this is what you have just said because my story, this is like the perfect setup for my story.
Oh my God.
So, Steph, do you believe in Yowies? Yowies being like the Australian Bigfoot?
Absolutely, I fucking do.
Yeah. Yes. Of course you do.
Jordi.
Of course you do.
Yes.
So,
I'm so happy. I'm blushing.
Oh, I'm glad that you're blushing. I have a friend called Tony who, for years, I knew that he had a Yowie experience. I'd seen him mention it time and time again, but I never knew any details at all. And like for weeks, pretty much when like as soon as we decided to do this podcast, I was like, I got to reach out to Tony and ask him about his like Yowie experience because I want to talk about it. Anyway, Tony reached out to me literally like in the beginning of the week and he was like, hey, did you know that I've had a Yowie experience?
Oh my God, Tony.
Tony, he's a really, really cool guy. Very like super down to earth. Very like my impression of him anyway is like super Aussie bloke. I'm pretty sure he like lives on property and stuff and looks after animals and like a nickname of his is like Tony Hillbilly because he's like fucking hillbilly. So he's like very, very down to earth, like no bullshit kind of guy. Really, really lovely dude. Anyway, he reached out to me. He was like, I've had a Yowie experience. And I was like, no, but I've been wanting to message you and reach out to you for literally like months now because I wanted to hear the story. And I was like, would you mind telling me about it? Because I want to do an episode with Steph about like friends' stories that we kind of compile. Tell me a story. And I was like, I need to use this for like an actual episode. I know. I've been waiting all week to tell you this.
This is great.
So this is the story of the Watagans Yowie. So this is Tony's story of the Yowie that he saw. It was October long weekend in 2010. I was taking a generator out to a bush party in the Watagans. And if there's anyone listening who isn't from Australia, the Watagans is like a big national park located about 100 kilometres or so, give or take, north of Sydney. So it's like more up north. And it's kind of like a pine forest.
Wow.
As opposed to like a bush kind of forest, which would make sense to Australians. Because we don't really have, Anyway, it was only a little party for my buddy's birthday, so nothing too big or hectic. I was in the troopy, and again, for anyone who isn't Aussie listening to this, a troopy is a car that we have here in Australia, and it had a trailer on the back of it. And I was driving slow, so I didn't smash it on the bumps that I was driving over. It was about midnight, and it was dark as. They'd written down the directions wrong, and I'd gotten lost. There was a left-hand turn written down when it was supposed to be a right-hand turn. I'm a long way in the bush, and I'd been driving around in the forest for about 3 hours straight. Anyway, I was going down this tight little track that was really steep, kind of four-wheel drive only goat track. I was driving just in low range first gear, creeping down with all the spotties on, so it was illuminated really brightly. I don't know if you've ever seen like full spotties on in the middle of the bush, but it is like fucking blindingly bright. It's like insane. Daytime. I could see down to the bottom of the hill that opened up into a bit of an intersection onto another track. It took maybe 15 minutes to get to the bottom while going at a slow crawl. Then Ellie, my dog, who was only a puppy at the time, woke up from a sleep and randomly started barking. I thought she needed to pee, as did I too, because we had been driving for ages trying to find this party. So I stopped at the big intersection at the bottom of the hill and got out and opened the back door for Ellie. She jumped out and went absolutely berserk, barking into the tree right in front of us. I didn't really think anything about it because she was just young and stupid still. So I had a pee just standing on the track by the side of the car. Then I heard a big thud, like a massive rock being dropped on the ground kind of thud. Actually, it was more like a big percussion than a loud sound, if you get me. I knew there were feral cows out there in the Watagans, so I stood perfectly still, thinking it could possibly be a big bull, and I should try and see where it is in the scrub before I move. Ellie was still going berserk, but when the thud percussion sound happened, she ran around behind me to bark. What a fucking hero. so then there were two more thuds like the first one straight after each other. I stopped peeing and zipped up, but stood perfectly still in case I had to run or move fast. Then I saw it move. And this is giving me goosebumps even now, all these years later, just thinking about it. It was literally just off the track, right in front of us. And it was fucking huge. It was dark and I couldn't really see it in full detail too well. So it was more of the clear outline of it mostly, if you get me. It was easily 2 feet taller than me. And which is massive. And then it was the shoulders I saw, and they were wide, like double door fridge wide.
Oh.
Right then I realized it definitely wasn't a bull, but whatever it was huge and could easily just smash us to death if it wanted to. I had all these things flashing through my brain all at once. So I grabbed Ellie and threw her into the car through the driver's door, and I jumped in and drove off fast. I was in such a hurry, the back door was still open. Then I realized when I'd seen it move, it stepped diagonally straight towards us. It had been standing there that whole time. It must have been. And I'd just spent 15 minutes driving nearly directly at it with a noisy car, pretty much beelining towards it. And it had just stood just outside of the beam of light, so it couldn't see. So I couldn't see it, but it could see me. So I think what Tony's trying to imply here is that it would have heard and seen him coming in the car. It's not like Tony just like
jumped up,
just surprised him. Surprised it out of nowhere.
It would have been so quiet out there, so dark,
and this body's being like super strong. Yeah. So God. It wasn't scared of me or the car or the lights or of a Great Dane, Ellie, being the Great Dane, going berserk. I wouldn't be scared either if I was that big. And it was definitely bipedal and definitely way bigger than me. I really don't know of anything in the bush it could have been. And this bloke, like Tony, he's spent years in the bush.
Right.
Like he's a real bush bloke, like not just for parties and stuff, but I'm pretty sure where he lives, it's like he's like a proper country guy, you know. So he
knows what's out there.
Yeah, he knows what's out there, and he knows kind of
nothing's that big.
Nothing's that big, and bipedal as well, and shoulders.
Exactly.
Like what
the
has
shoulders
upright?
Terrify me.
Yeah. So I really don't know of anything in the bush that it could have been. I thought about this a lot since it happened, and I think what was the case was it took offense to me peeing.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a territorial thing.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah.
You know, kind of makes sense.
It sounds like, I know with rock throwing, that's a warning sign. Like if you hear rocks, it means they're warning you need to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is
don't push it.
This is what I've seen as well through doing this kind of like research after this story. So and I'm sure it was a territorial thing. It stood still, and I wouldn't have ever known it was there until then, and it was no threat after I stopped. Otherwise, it would have just stood and watched, and I wouldn't even have known it was there. So he's saying that it could have just stood there without. So he's saying that it stepped diagonally towards them to make itself known. If it didn't want to be seen, it wouldn't have stepped towards them. So
he would have been hidden the whole time.
He would have just stayed still, hidden, like way more hidden than what it was. So after Tony sent me his story, I just wanted to ask him some questions just to get a bit more of an insight on a few more details. So I asked, do you think it was trying to get your attention with the thud? What do you think that noise was? Because he said it was like a weird percussion noise. Have you heard that kind of noise before? He said, I think what the thuds were was it beating its chest like a gorilla. Yeah, which is creepy as fuck. And I think that's why it didn't do anything until I peed on the track. And it was just going to watch, but then it took an insult to me marking its territory.
Yeah.
I asked, did you feel like it was trying to intimidate you? He said, I think it moved, so I knew it was there specifically to intimidate me. I asked him, do you feel it would have hurt you if given the chance? And Tony said, I think if I hadn't gone when I did, that it would have hurt me.
Yeah.
I asked, did you feel a sense of it being timid while hiding in the shadows, or more that it was just watching and monitoring you? And Tony said, so the thuds were definitely to intimidate me and to make itself known. But when I just stood still, it made sure I could see it.
Yeah.
I asked him, how many feet tall would you estimate it was? Because he said like a couple of feet taller than me, but I don't know how tall he is. So he said, I would say about 8 feet tall.
Yeah, just on the average person, that's too tall.
It's too fucking tall. And finally, I asked him, how wide would you estimate its shoulder size? And he said maybe 4 feet across the shoulders.
Oh my God.
That is massive.
Those things are beasts.
Yeah. Boosts.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The description of the double door fridge is just
it's pretty
perfect.
haunting,
Like he just no, that was such
huge shoulders. Yeah.
Huge.
So Tony actually submitted his encounter to an online forum in 2010 in a bid to gain some kind of understanding of what he saw. After he did this, he actually had a researcher connect with him wanting to know his story. This researcher agreed on Tony's theory that the creature was territorial, as well as having his own theory that certain lone males get pushed out of a tribe and end up on the edge of their range. And this is what people encounter when they see a Yowie, a lone individual that has been shunned.
Yeah.
Which, sounds, kind of makes sense for me also. So after speaking to Tony and hearing his story, I decided to do some searching of my own, of not just the Yowie, but sightings of the Yowie specifically in the Watagans, which is where Tony had his encounter.
Yeah.
After only 1 or 2 searches, the results were phenomenal. There is report after report after report of people experiencing the Yowie in one capacity or another in this area. I came across the Australian Yowie research website, which I'm not sure if you've seen, but it's a pretty prominent site. And after scrolling through many other encounters at the Watagans, there was another entry that really stood out for me. This is what it says. Myself and some friends were four-wheel driving around 10:30 p.m. in the Watagans forest, and we were doing around 60 kilometres before slowing down for a corner. We came around the corner and our headlights hit something in the long grass and scrub off the side of the road. It was this big grey-white thing, like a tree stump, but as we got closer to it, it stood up and started walking on 2 legs.
Oh.
We were only 11 metres from it, and it was in our high beams, so we got a very good look at it.
Oh, that's close.
It's very close. They get closer.
Oh, God.
When it stood up, it was When it stood up, it was front on, right in front of the car. I was staring at it, and it was staring at me, and then it started walking towards the car. I got a pretty good look at it, but my mate pretty much shit himself and just took off up the road. And when we took off, it was only about 3 or 4 meters from the driver's door.
Oh,
which is so close. This is not like just a distant sighting.
Oh my God.
It was around 7 to 8 foot tall and very broad.
Yeah.
Same as Tony's story, same as what we hear everywhere about these things. Its face was big and rounded with 2 big black eyes that didn't reflect in the same way a cat or a dog's eyes do. Its fur was almost like mouse fur. It wasn't shaggy. It didn't look like it had a mouth or a nose, and it was like they were hidden under the fur. So it looked like the fur was just hiding it.
Yeah, right, okay.
It was bigger than a human, and it was about 3 or 4 foot wide. So same again. After we passed it, I said to my mate, "Did you fucking see that?" And he said, "You saw it too?" And we took off. This is just one of endless stories based around the Watagans, which I found on the Australian Yowie research website, which I highly recommend anyone interested to go check out. It has logged hundreds of Australian sightings, probably including your own town or a town near you. There are actually quite a number of sightings here in the Blue Mountains. Essentially, every town that exists along the mountain has had more than a couple of reports of Yowies in mainly bushland areas.
Yeah.
So the Yowie is not a modern idea. It actually reaches back through the verbal history of one of the oldest civilizations in history, the Aboriginal people of Australia. We have various names for the Yowie: a Quinkin, a Jugabina, a Gindaring, a Jarawara, Mingawan, Pudikin, that one I'm not quite sure of the exact pronunciation, Pudikin, Dulaga, Gulaga, Thulagal, and even the word Yowie originates from an Aboriginal language. Apart from Indigenous history of the Yowie, there have been sightings within Australia that date back a couple of hundreds of years, around 1870s or so.
Yeah.
There's a theory that these sightings are really just a Yahoo, which is like a hairy monkey man who is supposedly an undiscovered Australian ape animal, which is quite different to the Yowie, to be honest. But by almost all accounts, the Yowie seems intelligent, self-aware, and quite human-like, despite its fur and size, to the point that it is smart enough to stalk you through the bush and watch you from the shadows. To be honest, when I came into the awareness of the Yowie quite long ago now, I have been quite highly skeptical of it, including Yetis and Bigfoot, etc. But after hearing Tony's experience and spending many hours into the early morning researching information on the Yowie, I truly think I'm convinced now.
It's pretty insane.
Yeah.
I never even gave Bigfoot a thought or Yowies a thought ever.
No.
And then I listening to people's encounters and reading stories, I am mind blown. Like I can't even. I'm like literally just a believer. Just from every week, every night, nearly I listen to stories about it, and it's just insane.
It is so interesting because even it's not that I doubted Tony's story, but I came at it totally just like unbiased. Just being like, this is going to be a good story. He told me this story and I was like, wow, that's very interesting. And then I researched, and just something about all the information I read, heard, watched, it, like, there is no, like, these stories just correlate so closely. And
it's insane. And there's so many of them.
There are so many, and they're all exactly the same. And depending on what location you're focusing on, like, I know here in the mountains, there's been a bunch of like Yowie sightings, and almost everyone who has seen one in the Blue Mountains has said we smelt it before we saw it. It had this really overwhelming stench of like rotting, it's just not like rotting. And that's kind of like primarily in the Blue Mountains, but then you don't hear it as much when you leave the Blue Mountains. So, but I watched like a bunch of videos, and there was one video I watched where it was this group out in the bush, and they were just doing a bit of a hunt for yowies, and they kind of what you said with the sticks, stones, the stone throwing. This is exactly what they said. Like, if you have stones thrown at you, it means like, fuck off. We don't want you here anymore. But then, like stick hitting, like tapping on the trees, that's like a form of communication, they think. Yeah.
I think I know what video you're watching.
Probably, yeah. It had a lot of views, and it was really good. It was a really good video. These are people that have, spent a lot of time investigating like sightings.
It's definitely something I want to get into a bit more, like actually go out and investigate that sort of thing, because it's like definitely it used to always be UFOs, and it always still will be, but Bigfoot and Yowies have completely taken over my life at the moment.
But it's very compelling. Like it's very compelling.
Doesn't get boring. The amount of stories you hear, they are also similar but also different and interesting at the same time.
Yes.
It's really odd.
And they're never like all the accounts I heard of like Yowie sightings, none of them are super wild and crazy, like, the Yowie disappeared and then reappeared over here. It's like we saw this massive creature, and it's always literally almost every story I heard was the same, like 8 foot tall, 4 foot wide, 3 to 4 foot wide.
Or even just hearing noises. Some people just noises. Like, I never saw anything, but we've had dogs missing off the property, and the noises we hear in the bush are mental. I've heard nothing like it before. Like, if people are going to make up, obviously some people are making up stories, always, but for the majority of them, why would you make up a story and you're just mentioning such a small thing, like,
and you're not like gaining anything from it. Like, this is what, like, I was talking to my boyfriend about it, because I was telling him what story I was doing this week, and he was like, I just don't know, because you'd think if there were so many sightings, it would be like a well-accepted thing. And it's like, well, there are so many sightings, and they all correlate, but of course there's going to be false, sightings.
Yeah, of course. That ruins the whole thing.
It ruins the whole thing, and those are the stories that make it seem just
exactly.
Like,
everyone holds on to those fake ones. Like, well, then there was that guy that got caught doing the Bigfoot footprints with the little stamps out in the bush.
It ruins it for everyone. I am particularly interested in because I hadn't heard anything about the Watagans, because I've been to the Watagans, like, for parties and stuff. I've never heard. It's a beautiful area. I'd never heard of. Maybe because I'd never been that invested in, like, Yowies and Bigfoot and stuff. But after Tony told me that he saw this Yowie in the Watagans, I was like,
you'll start researching it now. Every time you go, I've been doing it everywhere.
Yeah, and this is the thing. There are specific areas of the country where they are so highly seen. Like, after Tony told me his story, the first thing I put in was, like, Watagans Yowie. There are hundreds of sightings here. It's not just like one or two. It's like pretty much one of the, like, prime sites in Australia where they see Yowies. And
you can't ignore it now. Once it's like in the back of your mind, you just kind of like, because when I went down to Berry, that camping trip, actually, it was last year. It was kind of like near the Berry area. It's like 2 hours south of Sydney. And before I was going, I was doing the same thing. I can't remember the name of the area, but I was going Yowie into Google, looking for stories. And now, every now and then, we go up to the Central Coast and the long drive. I'm always like in the car looking over the bush on the side of the highway. Like, I've heard stories of people on that highway, even in the Blue Mountains, that have seen a Yowie standing on the side of the highway.
Well, this is the thing. Like, this like Yowie research website, Australian Yowie research website, you can basically just click a town and see all the
That's awesome.
sites from that town. And so I clicked like where my hometown in the mountains, and it's like I recognize the roads that they're talking about. I know what bush
terrifying
area
encounter in your suburb that is on YouTube.
is there actually.
Yeah. There's this
Oh, I need to watch
can't remember
this.
what the YouTube page is called, but it's just called like, I think it's like Yowie Encounters Australia or something, but they're all different lengths, but it's pretty much all around Australia.
Yep.
And it's just one encounter per episode, and it's just the suburb that it's in and then the state, and then it's just that person talking on the phone about their encounter, and it's terrifying. And there's one in your suburb that just sticks with me, so I'll send it to you after
Send it to me. I pretty much just focused on like the Watagans, for this one, because I was just so taken aback by like not just the amount of sightings there, but they are all super, super similar to what like Tony told me, and like like other like original kind of stories that I read, and then I read more, and it's like they're all relating to each other. It's like this thing is kind of just like watching them from the side of the road, just kind of like sitting in the shadows, like watching them.
They're so smart.
They're so smart, and this is kind of like the human element coming into it. I think there was one story, just really briefly, there was one story that I read where people like the Watagans, a group of people's car broke down, and they had to walk a bunch of kilometers to reach like a phone or to get help, and they heard this thing stalking them through the bush. And it was like you could hear bipedal stepping. Yeah. And branches breaking.
Yeah, what else could that be?
What else is going to stalk you?
We're definitely going to have to come back to the Yowie topic.
Yeah,
we'll have, if other people want to reach out and have their stories.
Tell us.
I mean, any encounter, but yeah, I mean,
specifically,
we're definitely going to.
Yeah, just while we're on this topic, like specifically this, of course we want to hear ghosts, like UFOs. We really want to hear. I would love to start including listeners' stories every now and then.
That would be awesome.
Like, that would be so great.
But reach out to us for sure.
Yeah.
Email, DM us, anyway.
Contact us in any way possible. But we better cut it off because we're going to be just, chatting forever. So, reach out to us. We would, just love so much to talk to you on social media. We would love to have, we're going to just like pound this into your brains. Please leave us a review. Like, we just, want to
really helpful.
It is so helpful to us, and of course we want to hear from you have a follow from you on social media, but reviews specifically are very very helpful. But great stories this week. It
was really fun this episode. I loved your story. I'm so happy with yours. That's awesome.
I do actually want to just really really quickly just thank Tony for contacting me, because I know that coming out with a story like this can make you seem crazy, and I know that it can make you just feel a bit uncomfortable knowing that people are probably just gonna
appreciate you a lot, Tony. That's awesome.
But really really thankful for that. But cool. All right, well I guess we'll talk to you all next week.
We'll see you, talk to you,
talk to you, all the things
next week.
All right,
bye. See you.
This episode of Spooky Mountain was created and recorded on land of the original custodians, the Gundungurra and Bidjigal people. We pay respects to the past, present, and emerging mob. My name is Jordi, and I'm a proud Gunya woman. Thank you for listening.